Welcome to another Kingscrusher radio show. It's 9:10 on Tuesday, just after Holby City. This week, thought we could carry on looking at another game or two of the great Garry Kasparov. Okay, hi all on stream, and streaming also to play chess. Alright, this first game I want to show you is Robert Hübner against Kasparov in the Brussels tournament of 1986. Just a quick bio on Robert Hübner. His last FIDE rating was 2574. Hübner's 68 years old actually now. He was born in Cologne in 1948. At 16 he tied first in the European Championship, and in 1971 he earned the International Grandmaster title by qualifying into the World Championship candidates. A great player, basically. He still lives in Germany, and as of January 2005 was still in FIDE's top 100 players. Okay, this game in 1986, let's see, d4 from Hübner. Let's flip the board, connect to live book, and add a kibitzer, and also add a kibitzer. Stockfish 8 actually I'll be using tonight. Okay, d4 knight f6. Yeah, on stream, yeah, the Hübner variation Nimzo-Indian is good. Yes, he's got names to some variations. Rockshard on stream. Hi there on stream. So we see c4, g6, knight c3. Kasparov actually plays a Grunfeld in this game. d5, Grunfeld rather than King's Indian. And usually white plays c takes d. Yeah, that's the main move. But also the second most popular is just knight f3, bishop g7. Now, quite an unusual move here. Often in this position, queen b3 is quite popular, or taking. Then there's bishop g5. This is an order of popularity. e3, bishop f4, but this other move was played, which is queen a4 check. A disruptive check, maybe. How does black want to react? Well, black usually plays bishop d7 here. That's what was played. On c6, I think this gives white a small advantage because of c takes d, getting a bit of centre because c takes obviously is pinned. This is actually quite good for white. This position, it's given us a small advantage. This position here, it's to be avoided. So bishop d7 is necessary, it seems. So it is a disruptive check. And the queen just goes back to b3, so it's kind of done its job of causing some awkwardness, and it's still being annoying on b7, as well as of course pressure on d5. Kasparov actually takes here, so he's not worried about queen takes b7, because I believe we have, well, I thought maybe bishop c6, but there might actually be stronger here. On bishop c6, apparently this is quite good for white, but there might be stronger here. This might not be the key idea in this particular position. Maybe knight c6 is a lot better. It stops queen b4, and then we can get some pressure like this. Gambit. Yeah, that's good actually for black. This position is all good for black. We got pressure, we got counterplay. So anyway, here, yeah, queen takes b7. It seems the key move would be knight c6. On bishop c6, queen b4 is good. So we have queen takes c4. Okay, black castles. e4. Now the aggressive b5. So trying to make use of the whites being kind of overloaded here. Can't take on here surely, because then we can just take here with a great position. Doesn't matter about c7 again. This is just a strong gambit for black to play something like knight c6. You don't want this position with white. There's a lot of pressure here. for the pawn. A massive compensation. So basically the queen just dropped back here to b3. And now the aggressive c5 is played. Which is interesting actually. e5 now is the response. White's centre is being kind of provoked forward here with c5. Just have a look at this for a moment. If d takes c5, there's knight a6. We're going to be hitting c5 with tempo. And you might think, well, hold on, let's just take this a bit further. Let's take here. We'll take here. This is good for black because I believe actually there's, again, a certain amount of positional pressure for the pawn. And there's immediate issues here with a6 and knight d3 check with that pin. If white castles, then this is good for black. Knight takes. Knight takes. Better for black. Okay, so c5. So DC yeah, runs into knight a6 basically. So white played e5. The centre's being provoked a little bit forward. We see knight g4. So the centre's about to crumble here at base. It looks a bit strange for white to have this loose position. Bishop takes b5. But now the centre's crumbling. C takes d4. Black's already better. He's won the opening battle. It seems actually that the queen a4 check has essentially backfired so far. This can't be good for white. The centre melting down like this. You'd think. One would think. Okay, so e5 is weak here. Kasparov takes here. Now, you might think, why can't we actually just take here on e5? We can, actually. But first, a6 was played. The knight went back. Now, here, actually, instead of taking, I think this is a reasonable move, but maybe even stronger is what was played. Queen d4 hits f2 immediately, asking white to do something about that. And you might think then you might castle to defend f2, but actually queen c2 was played. There might be a specific reason for this. Why protect the f2 pawn like this? Why not castle? Because actually queen takes e5, yet there is a reason, would be threatening mate. And this is nasty. If f4 we win the exchange, yeah, that classic, I'm sure everyone knows the classic smothered mate. Yeah, it is on here because there's no defender of, yeah. And also the problem here is if g3 queen h5, if h4 then, this is just miles better for black. Knight c6, coming into d4, very aggressive. It looks like a winning position essentially. This white's collapsing here. Just an example. Well, we don't even need to give an example. It's just collapsing, isn't it? Okay. You get right. This is really bad to create all these weaknesses. So white can't castle without getting subjected to terrible threats. So this maneuver, right? So white plays queen c2, and we have this is on. It can be played. It seems a reasonable move, but also knight c6 is a reasonable move here. And if castling now, again we have the same sort of horrible thing happening. It's not too good, this position, because knight d4 for example, queen h5 again. Sorry, not there. Knight f3. Sorry, I meant queen d1. Queen h5. This is good. Queen f5 threatening, well, all sorts of things. So basically, yeah, we have queen e2, not castling. Queen takes e5. Kasparov doesn't mind the exchange of queens coming off. He's just got in a much better position here. After takes, knight g takes. Black is miles better. The piece activity is really great. Knight d3, and there's actually loads of pressure here on the queen side. That is quite a huge knight there. Rook b1. It's very uncomfortable, this pressure. White can't really move that bishop without dropping the whole, like, the queen side looks to be falling to bits here. So we have rook b1, rook ab8. Yeah, there's a lot of queen side pressure. Rook d1, just rook fd8, king f1. We have f5 now. So black is, this is a little bit, it's got some features similar to, in a way it reminds me of, anyway, of the famous Karpov-Kasparov World Championship game with the knight on d3 and the knight's kind of not doing much here. This is a really active, aggressive position for black. And he actually has both knights protecting each other now. And these knights are stumbling around. Knight a4. We have now rook d6. This not just introduces doubling of rooks, but maybe even, you know, rook e6 is going to be useful. Bishop e3, f4, bishop c5. We have this check which doubles basically white's pawns to get this f4 square. Very dangerous. So that's taken check. And now rook f6 protecting the knight. Doesn't mind giving up e7. The king here, it looks like a strange configuration with the two knights there. Very aggressive pieces for black. Technically, yeah, white's 2 pawns up here, but his king is subject now to pressure, and also black's getting a pawn back here anyway. And threatens now horrible things like knight f4 check. We see bishop d6, knight f4 check, and now knight g4 threatening a mate in 4 actually with the check. This will be a mate in 4 actually, because to just show you, you can imagine with the two knights and rook, it should be mating, right? As an example, there could be a mate in 4. So this is dangerous. Rook d2 is played. This might be like the only move, in fact. Basically, rook d2, rook e8. Threatens now, well, so it's cutting the king like that, and it's threatening quite nasty things like taking. I mean, let's have a quick look at this position. White's in a bad state. Let's imagine, well, let's just follow the game continuation actually. Why is this such a strong move? Let's just look at the game continuation. White played knight c4. Knight c4. Sorry. After rook e8, sorry, white played knight c4. Black now plays knight takes h2 check. Knight g4 is played. And yeah, a lot of damage has been done to white's king safety. Black is now threatening knight e2 check, followed by taking on f2, because it will stop that protection of f2. We have rook f1 protecting f2 for dear life. Bishop d4 ganging up on f2, again threatening not just bishop f2 but also rook g3 is a threat. And that comes into life here. Bishop c5 trying to defend f2 but leaves g3. That's used. Check. And this is actually a forced mate here, believe it or not, after king h1. This is a forced checkmate. We have check with best play. King g1. And actually Kasparov doesn't play, it seems, the most quickest checkmate. He plays what is a winning move anyway, knight h2, and white resigned here, threatening this. White resigned. White's best would be, well, it's hopeless actually. White would have to give up the rook. These knights are kind of, there's a mating there obviously which is happening, and the pawn's pinned. There's no f3. What, white has to like give up the rook or something like this, which isn't too hot. If he takes there, then there's again a mate in 2 here. Checkmate like that. So it's hopeless. There's also, just for those interested, a quicker checkmate with knight e5. Same sort of thing. Well, white has to just give up, or it's hopeless. Yeah. So basically, after the last move of the game was actually just knight h2 here. Yeah. So it seems white was hounded from the opening. It seems like this is an example of the novel move queen a4 check just being destroyed completely. Instead of white being tempted for c6, Kasparov played incredibly accurately, it seems. With that quick b5 and c5, just incredible. He wasn't really. It's just a stone cold killer. It's not really surprised by anything. It seems when there's a kind of novel move, it seems as though he's like prepared for them. So I don't know what you guys think of this game. It's quite a brutal Grunfeld, do you think? What can we say about the game? It's the Grunfeld in Kasparov's hands. White's centre just seemed loose, and Kasparov just played f3 to smash through to White's king's position. The knights, all the pieces were really aggressive. If you look at all of Black's pieces, they were actually, they were mega aggressive. We had a look at d takes c5 here, and I mentioned knight a6. We could have a go at knight takes b5, but just knight takes e4. Yeah, this is good for Black. Yeah, it was just a mega aggressive game. White centre collapsing, and White too scared to castle. He couldn't castle because of the h2. The knight's just stumbling, and yeah, White's pieces not helping the king much. Okay, let's have a look at another game then. So we get this final position. Knight h2. Yeah. By the way, if the rook moves, just to show you, obviously, if this check, well, not obviously, this is a mate here, because the two knights are controlling all the key squares. Everything's controlling all the key squares. That would be a mate as well. All right. So another interesting game I like to show you. It's Kasparov against Nigel Shaw in, I think, the same tournament, Brussels 1986. So against Nigel Shaw, who was Britain's top grandmaster, I think, that year. Well, it's been for quite some time, as well as Adams. So, okay, so Kasparov playing white in this game. Got a bit of a block here, sorry about that. Now I know how Petrosian might have felt. Okay, so d4 from Kasparov, e6, knight f3, knight f6, c4. We have d5. So Short's trying to play solidly, it seems. We see knight c3, bishop e7. So we've got a queen's gambit declines. Classic position. Black usually does play h6. White often plays this actually rather than taking immediately. But in this is the second most popular move, to take immediately on f6. e3, standard stuff. Rook c1 is the standard move here, not moving the bishop actually. There's only very few games for moving the bishop, only 18 compared to 955. I think the problem is, anyway, just saying, rook c1 is the most popular by far. c6, these are all very popular moves. Bishop d3 now. Castles, yeah, we're following a main road here, a main road. Now, usually in this position, h3 is played, as played. h3 in this position. Yeah, h3. E takes d. E takes d. Still loads of games in this position. So Black's got that bishop pair out of the opening. And it seems the bishops are quite aggressive, potentially. We have bishop f5, rook e1. And now usually black plays rook e8. Here we go off the main road. Black played a very interesting idea in this particular game. The usual sequence from this position is rook e8, then taking, and it's thought to be about equal here, around here. It's thought to be about equal. Looks a bit boring, right? We can carry on a bit, and it looks to be about equal. But Nigel Short played an interesting move in the form of bishop g5. Okay, so you might think, well, okay, bishop g5. This rook is harassed, clearly, and it actually goes back to a1, amusingly. The option of taking on g5 probably leaves black with a fine game, actually, after taking, because there's the immediate threat of bishop takes h3. Given that, say queen f3 to protect h3. This position is okay for black. It's fine. We've still got the isolated queen's pawn, the problem, and black's fine. Okay, but Kasparov, he didn't want to take that bishop and activate the queen there. Actually, he actually just moved the rook to a1. Okay, you might think this is strange. Okay, what's the idea? Is there an idea? Knight d7 is played. If we try and blockade, let's have a look. Knight d5. White can take and play rook e5 here. And this is problem territory. If bishop e6, we can take and we can play queen d2. And this is a big problem now. There's no f6. We're losing this g5 pawn. No f6, right? We just take it here. This is horrible. G4, we just take d5 is a problem. So basically, it seems already that there's actually some difficulties with this position. This resource in particular prevents the natural knight d5. So we have knight d7, but now the liberating move d5, dissolving the isolated queen's pawn, but also it gives the d4 square, you'll notice, and that's actually used here. Knight d4 here, bishop g6, but here, yeah, sorry, if the bishop had gone back to h7, yeah, okay, got a similar idea than the game. To the game. So bishop g6, white play here. What would you play in this position? Interesting move. And it does actually, it's the top engine move as well. It guarantees an advantage, it seems. This next move, can you see? $20 seconds. Okay, I'm about to show you. Knight e6, yeah. Trying to break down this diagonal. So forking queen and rook, it's virtually forced to take here. And then we have d takes, threatening this check to win the rook. The knight can't move because then we got like check winning the queen. So this is troublesome. Black plays king h7. He's essentially lost material. He's a pawn down. He's smashed. Who would have expected this? You know, what's strange is rook a1. You would have thought rook a1, like white's. How was rook a1 leading to this position? It's because rook a1. If you know, the black bishop on g5 was a target, making rook e5 a threat. So this led to this disaster position. Now black here played queen b6. If he takes the queen, this is just horrible. I mean, you can imagine this is horrible, right? We just protect the pawn, and we can play bishop e6, protecting the pawn, and we can play this, protecting the pawn, and it's a solid pawn. So we have queen b6 instead, but now e7 is played. And this has got a great idea. You might think this is strange, because isn't it kind of loose here, because the bishop's on that square, right? Isn't the pawn kind of loose? Isn't this strange? It's a great move though, queen g4. The thing is, the rook's overloaded. Look at this. It's keeping an eye on c8. This is immune, you know. Bishop takes, I think we just go bang, rook takes e7, because we've got our eye on c8 here, so the pawn's actually immune. And there's pressure on this g file now. We have queen c5, which doesn't help too much, but what is white threatening? It might be threatening. Let's just give black a non-move, just to see what white's threatening. Let's have a look at h4, bishop f6, h5. This is the threat because the bishop hasn't got squares. And if bishop d3, here, the bishop hasn't got squares. And if the bishop went over there, I think just get mated to check. Bishop c2, we take out this diagonal. And this is like mates. So this is actually, it seems white is actually threatening here. Believe it or not, h4, h5. If black does nothing, black tried this, queen c5. Now, how does it answer h4? You might ask. I think it might have to do with this f5 square. If h4 here, I'm not sure it works. Actually, not here, because queen f3 and knight e4 is strong there. For knight d6 coming. No, in this position actually, this. But this is also bad for black because of bishop f7. b4. Yeah, the black queen is overloaded. Yeah, I mean, so actually, h4 seems dangerous. Bishop f5 is not working. If bishop takes e7 though, yeah, the point is the queen's protecting the bishop. Okay, we see it now that this is not working because actually we just take with the queen here and black will be fine, winning. So queen c5 is preparing to answer h4 with bishop takes e7. Sorry. Yes, bishop takes e7. That must be one of the main ideas to avoid this and this. Okay, but there's a new problem that emerges. It's solved one problem but creates another. Queen c5, it creates another problem. What is the problem that this creates? It solved this problem of h4 and rook e7 for rook queen c8, or even h5. It solved that problem, but it creates another fairly obvious problem actually. White play here. White play here. What would you play with white in this position? What's the strongest move you think? It seems Kasparov again played like the strongest move in this position available. Yeah, just knight e4. The problem is the queen's exposed to knight e4. Now, if the queen, where can the queen scurry to? If queen e5, h4, and if bishop takes, there's knight g5 check here, winning the queen. The pawn's supporting that knight. That's horrible. And if takes here, we just take this, winning a piece. So queen e5 isn't sufficient. Queen a5. There's actually bishop c2 here, and there's a mega threat going on, I believe, to do with this diagonal. If here rook e7, knight f6 check is crushing. We're creating a pin here, and also rook e7's on the cards. So say takes, we take on e7, that's winning. And say king here, we could take here actually, that's winning. It's all winning actually. If takes here, we take here, and that's winning because we're taking on c8 after. So that would all be winning. So this position after knight e4, yeah, the queen hasn't got too many squares, it seems. Did I miss any out? Queen f5. The problem with this is queen takes. Now we've got knight takes. And in this position there's bishop f7. That's winning material. Bishop f7. Yeah. So, okay, knight e4 is a bit of a major problem. We have actually queen takes e7 played. And you might think, hasn't black got away with it? What's so bad about this? Position. There is something really. It seems crushing still, but I can't say honestly that I can't immediately see why it would be so crushing. Okay, but anyway, I'll ask you, white to play here. White to play in this position. Hasn't he just lost his important pawn? Why did he want this position? That's fascinating. I must admit, I can't immediately see why. Okay, so we're gonna have to have a look at it in detail. I've got questions about it myself. It was actually bishop c2. This is leading to, it seems this is crushing, it seems. Now, the immediate threat is presumably actually f4. So if black did nothing in this position, let's skip back a nothing move. f4 is like a really good idea, because then with g6 is not knight takes f6 because there's queen takes and there's nothing for white there, but actually knight g5 check here wins the queen. But actually we can also take the queen or take takes. Okay, that's just winning the queen. f4 for knight g5 is winning the queen. Okay, so that we've established that maybe it's to do with f4 threat. If king h8, this is what I was wondering about this position myself. Knight takes g5. The problem here is attacking the queen. The bishop's loose. So on queen takes, the bishop's loose. We just take here. and then we just take that loose bishop. So is there any defense here against this move bishop c2? That's the question. Yeah, because this if king g8, again knight takes g5. Well, the problem is the bishop's loose again. The king can't go away from the bishop. Yeah, because we're hitting the queen here. This is no good. There's not enough. Because the bishop's loose again, isn't it? Basically, if takes. Well, we throw in a check here. We'll take the rook there. So yeah, it seems bishop c2. There's actually doesn't seem like there's an answer here for black. There's no answer to black. There's no answer. I mean, the engine seems to think this is +3. So Kasparov gave away what seemed to be his important pawn to get this position where there's just no answer. I mean, you know, if bishop takes, we have this horrible position here. We're going to be, you know, going with check. That's a total disaster, right? We just bang, check, end of game. So what's happened here after bishop c2? It seems everything's just bad for black. Anyway, so in the game, rook f8 is played. Unless you want me to investigate other defensive moves. Any other defensive moves before we move on? Other than what we're about to see, rook f8. Say now, if you want. I'll give you 20 seconds. If you want me to just show, I mean, it just seems to be no answer. Anyone got an answer? Did I mention bishop f6? This is before anyone says bishop f6. The problem with bishop f6 is knight g5 check. We can take on g6 first, then take on e7, and this is, and then actually we can take here because that bishop was pinned. It couldn't take on e7. There's no answer, is there? I mean, is everyone convinced that there's no answer? You take my word for it. I'm checking with engine. You're going to take my word for it. There's no answer. But okay, rook cd8. Okay, we've got to try it. Rook cd8. We're going back to f4 again here, because f4 supports knight g5 now. Winning the queen. Yeah. f4. Queen b4. Queen b4. The queen's loose there actually. I would imagine just a check to win the queen. But let's have a look. Just taking here actually, and we're going to win the queen. Yeah. Or take on g6 first, even stronger. Queen f7. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Knight takes g5 check. I can see this, I believe, because if takes, we've got. Can you see? I hope you can see what white has here. Queen h5 check. There's nothing. Anyway, so we'll go with the game. Rook f8. Now rook f8 is interesting. It does stop f4, right? Because there's bishop takes f4 here. It stops f4, but it doesn't stop. Dear, I might have accidentally done something. Okay, white to play here. So black has stopped f4, but what is there as well as f4 which is a problem for black? white to play here and win. Black has stopped f4, but white has 200 points. h4, same thing, hook to win the queen. So if bishop f6, we've got the same hook to win the queen, yeah? And if bishop takes here, knight g3 apparently is the strongest, actually, because we're hitting g6 and e7, and everything's loose. If queen f6, we take here, and then this one's loose. Yeah. Actually, Kasparov didn't even play h4, so I'm just showing you the most crushing move. Kasparov actually played a different move here, not h4. He played actually another move which is just has both f4 and h4 as threats, and black can't do anything here anyway. Black tried to extinguish f4, but Kasparov is calmly playing for either f4 or h4 rather sadistically. Black is in trouble here, and you might think, hold on a sec. Okay, he played actually queen d8. Well, what if bishop f6? We're back to this knight g5 check here, winning the queen. So okay, black got the queen out of the firing line with queen d8. Just have a quick look at the engine suggestion, which is this one. Well, there's h4 or f4. Both of them are just there. Yeah, again, kind of winning the queen. All right, so the queen got out the firing line with queen d8 into a new one with rook ad1. The queen's kicked out of there. Can't stay on the e file because there's, again, there's like check to win the queen. It just went out way. Has to be kicked out of there. Oh man, I'm gonna have to dismantle this game after. This is like a bit of my brother's got good electronics by dismantling electronics. The way this works, how we got to this position, how e7 was lost to get this crushing position. I need to make sure I get a grip on it a bit after. I'm gonna have to rewind this earlier. But hold on, what white to play here? What does white play in this position? Okay. Well, either f4 or h4. I've given you a clue. I'm actually, I shouldn't ask that. Either f4 or h4 are really strong. It seems the strongest is h4. Okay, the bishop goes to e7. Again, Kasparov didn't play what seems to be the most optimal move, but it is sufficient what he played. It's a crushing position. The most optimal move seems to be knight d6, with the idea of rook takes e7 hitting g7. So, for example, bishop takes. We have rook takes e7 hitting g7. And this is crushing, also hitting c8, yeah. So if bishop g6, well, I think we can even just take on c8 as well as play this first and take on c8. So that seems to be the optimal crushing move, knight d6. But this is also another crushing move. In fact, the engine even prefers this now. Knight c3. Engine's actually come to Kasparov's move with greater thinking. Knight c3. So it's hitting e7 and hitting g6. Right? So double attack, if bishop f6 we just take on g6, yeah? So the bishop takes on c2 and we get similar to what I just showed you. Rook takes e7. How do we shield g7? In the game, rook g8 was played. Just before we look at that, if bishop g6, well, this is really good anyway. because of here. Yeah, there's too much pressure. There's a killer move in this position, which is similar to the game. So let me just show you the game continuation. Rook g8. 2 rooks double. We've got 3 things now on g7. Yeah, okay. Now, bishop f5 was played, which allowed the finish. Rook takes g7, king here. And can you see the killer move in this position, which is the final move of the game? White to play and win here. It's the final. Well, actually, there's multiple moves that checkmate. There's 2 moves which are a mate in 4, but they both feature the same move. The move which you need to find in this position. Okay, so what are the 2? There's at least 2 mate in 4s. There might be a load more actually. No, there's 3 mate in 4s. There's 3 mate in 4s. So 200 points for any of the mate in 4s. But they all feature the same move, the queen move, at some point. White to play and win. Yeah, yeah. They all feature queen d4. They all feature queen d4. In fact, queen d4 immediately is a mate in 4. But either this is a mate in 4 with queen d4. All black's going to do is like delay things, yeah. Or you could have done it like this, still with queen d4. Funny enough, queen d4 immediately is also the same pattern. You don't even need to sack the rook first. Just queen d4 here is also, funny enough, a mate in 4. Even here, it's we're mating shortly. So yeah, queen d4, end of game. Okay, now, but I got some questions here myself. This position, what about instead of bishop f5, what about bishop g6? We're still playing queen d4 with a mate in 6. This gets a mate in 6, queen d4. There's no way of stopping the pressure here. There's no rook sack in this position. Just queen d4 is a mate in 6, apparently. But actually, there's no rook sack working. Although this is an advantage to white, but you don't need to do that when queen d4 mates. Now I'm confused by the game. Actually, let's just go back. We need to go back to examine something about this game. Okay, this move, it pierced into the light squares of black's position. We can agree that the light squares are compromised, I think, yeah? Let's have a look at the mechanics. The light squares are compromised. They were compromised here. Now the e7 thing liberated the bishop on the diagonal. And we got a potentially loose piece only protected by the king. So it seems Kasparov seems to have some vision of losing e7 here. And keeping an eye on, so he kept an eye on c8, but he's prepared to lose e7 for other stuff. So he just goes into this position knowing he's losing e7. It's fascinating. Because you might not think, would anyone really want to go into this position to lose e7? I mean, I think it's just realizing the power of this position is fascinating. That there's discovered attacks on the queen and loose bishop on g6 all around the place. Yeah, there's like no defense here. I mean, just if you want to recap, did we mention bishop f6? Yeah, that loses the queen there. Yeah, there's just no defense. It's yeah, as soon as the bishop goes there, we get the g5 square. That's clever, isn't it? We win the queen with g5. There's just no defense here. It's just funny. I don't know what you guys think about this. It's shocking. This is a horror story of a game if you look at it in detail. Is anyone objecting that this is? Does anyone think black's okay? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say the engine's having this as +3, this position. Why not black a few moves back? Why not the move rook to c7? You have to be more specific. Okay, I imagine you might be talking about this position. Rook c7 is mentioned by the engine to get out of the firing line. Let's imagine you're talking about 23 rook c7. Apparently there's the move h4 here. Now if oh, this is worth checking out. Yeah, this is worth checking out. Because this is possible then, hitting the rook. But even this position, we take here, h5. Where does this bishop go? It has to go to d3, right? It's funny because rook d1, I think the problem is we get this diagonal. If the bishop moves, we get that killer diagonal. Oh, yeah, like that. So yeah, rook d1 is winning there. Black has got the tactical this, but even this position's okay to let that go. Even here is okay for white. It's good for white. Okay, rook c7 in more depth. Rook c7. So h4 is the move, it seems. If bishop takes, wow. Well, again, h5 is strong here, because if bishop d3 here, again, it's these. It goes back to this idea that there's weak squares, weak light squares around the black king. You want to try bishop f7, or there's a bishop on f7. Bishop f7 instead. Yeah, so this position looks really bad, right? You want to try bishop f7 instead. I don't think there's any chance for bishop f7 anywhere. Okay, so it's weird. He gave up his pawn just to get this position, which there's no defense. But you have to like eventually realize that there's no defenses in this position. I'm just wondering why there's no defense. I'm just wondering, is it because, I don't know, there's loose pieces, there's the queen as a target, and there's weak light squares around the king. So yeah, okay. If you've got any other questions about this game, anyway, it'll be on YouTube, so comments and other questions on YouTube, yeah, on the King's Crusher channel. So maybe we can carry on the analysis discussion in the comments on the YouTube video. So I hope you enjoyed this week. 2 fascinating games, and I'm glad we're taking these games slowly, because actually they kind of explode in complexity for what the variations. To me, they're explosive, aren't they? Okay, hope you enjoyed it. So thanks for coming, and see you next week. Okay, have a good week. Thanks very much.